Hello again, everybody. We've got one more demonstration of what establishing a pre-practice routine based on a particular etude can look like. And so the example for this one that I'm going to walk you through is one of the 2020-2021 Colorado All-State Band audition etudes. This comes out of the Rubank Advanced Method. It's number 30. And if you take a look at this one, it looks pretty straightforward on the surface, but this is a great example of how answering some basic questions about how the etude is designed can really help you extract a really effective warm-up and pre-practice kind of mental routine. So if I'm glancing through this, some of the first things that I'm going to notice are the fact that it's marked allegro, it's written in 4/4 time, they've given you the tempo, right? So a quarter note equals 132. There's a key signature that's got some sharps in it. It looks to me like it might be D major, but again, a pretty common trend with some of these all-state etudes is looking like this here. If I look at the first note, in this case the first beat, and the last note, way down here, I see that they're both B, and B as a tonic with two sharps gives us a pretty clear B minor. So we're in B minor right here. So if I'm thinking about different kinds of patterns that would be really effective to pull out as technical exercises, I for sure would be playing the B minor scale in each of its forms. Looks to me like it's got some melodic patterns that are other types of scales that we could really isolate. And so if I were developing this pre-practice routine, I for sure would look, oh my goodness, what is that? Octave, chromatic scale, right? Chromatic, octave, chromatic, octave, chromatic. Oh boy. So I definitely would take each of those chromatic patterns that starts on B, there's one that's on C sharp, one that's on D, and we tend to be very good at the bassoon and playing our chromatic scale starting on B flat and going up first. And if we're not really mindful, we're not great at playing it in other manners. So even though we know our chromatic scale, I'm using big air quotes right here, but then we know our chromatic scale, a lot of times we can't put it in context if we don't practice starting on a different foot, so to speak. So I would take this as a chromatic passage and just go up and down, starting on different notes for my chromatic scale. Maybe B down to B and back up. So I'm going to start this, get all the way down as if this pattern kept going, and back up. Same thing, C sharp. You betcha, I'm going to do it on D too. So that's something that I would pull out as my pre-practice routine. I'm looking for melodic patterns. That's what's going on, right? I also see a melodic pattern of these upward leaps where I have to go from a note that uses the whisper key to a note that uses a vent key or a speaker key or a flick key, if that's something that you're used to using. It might be an octave. It could be a sixth in some of these cases if we're naming these intervals. So I would design myself an exercise that does some of those octaves. Practice getting those leaps in place, so when I have to play them in context, all I'm thinking about in this pre-practice routine, I flip my B minor switch on in my brain, I just have to play an octave, B, B, my little scale pattern, which I've already learned because I played my B minor scale, and then my chromatic scale pattern, which I already know because I played my chromatic scale. That's an example of how I would take some of these pre-practice routines in an etude that looks really simple and pull some of the fundamentals out of it so I'm more efficient at practicing. I hope this is helpful as you start to prepare some etudes that maybe look a little bit like this, that look pretty simple on the surface, but are actually kind of difficult to work through. So happy practicing.